What's up, guys and gals? Welcome back to the Nerd Castle. Today in the world of indie game. Okay, not indie games. This time around, we're going to be taking a look at Return to Moria. This is one of those games that I've been waiting for a really long time. You guys will know that I'm a massive fan of, like, anything that has to do with dwarves. They are my favorite fantasy race by a significant long shot. Like, I like them a lot. And so when I found out this game had come out, and it kind of had like a stealth drop, I didn't even know it was releasing so soon. I thought this thing was way off on the horizon. I decided to play it. And play it I did for like the last... I did for like the last 2 days on Twitch. I played for about 12 or 15 hours. And so I figured now would be the time to introduce you to the game and talk about my first impressions, because while I was going through stuff, it seemed like only the usual culprits were pushing out content on the game, you know, IGN, random big sites like that. And so I figured, why not give you a guy that's close to the ground his observation about this? Just, you know, your average gamer. So we're going to dive on in for about 30 minutes. I'm just going to play the game. It's going to be a little bit edited, but not like super edited. We'll talk about the things that I like. We'll talk about the things that I don't like. And hopefully it'll help you be well appraised as to whether or not you wanted to play the game. If after watching this you wanted to get the game for yourself, you are more than welcome to do that at the link that I provided for you down below. On top of that, you can also take a look down there and you'll find a link to my Twitch stream. That's the place where I played this for like 13 hours. You can go watch those VODs right now and kind of see the progress of how I got to where I am right now and figure out whether or not that process seems like something that's fun to you. So without further ado, let's get moving. So what is Return to Moria? Well, it's an open-world dwarf survival game that's procedurally generated, set in Tolkien's Lord of the Rings universe. You are a dwarf way after the Fellowship who has come back here with Gimli in order to reclaim Moria for his family's glory. Damn the cost, and through a series of events, you end up alone down here inside the mine, and you need to find your way out by crafting, by looting, by finding new utilities and tools and things that'll help you out. As of right now, I'm on like the 3rd or the 4th biome. It seems like there's like 7 or 8 more biomes from just like the map screen that I have that sort of like explained all that. And so it seems like there's a pretty solid density of combat here. But as of right now, I was trying to get to Durin's Highway. My current goal is to find my way back to Durin's Highway, and I have to take kind of like this ancient frontage road because some kind of wizard or mystic or somebody down here has been booby-trapping doors with like dark Sauron magic. And so, of course, nothing can ever go according to plan in a game like this. A damaged history stone. I can fix it with granite. Okay, that's all cool and fine and dandy or whatever. But actually, what I really need is stone so that I can build up my base. Unfortunately, you can mine off these walls right here. Like, you can mine on any stone wall, but it's very inefficient. It takes forever to get stone. I'm looking for, like, that gushy, squishy stone that I can use to build up my base. And unfortunately, it doesn't really look like there's anything too useful inside this little nook. There's, like, some kind of, like, shadowed building over here, but I can't really figure out what's going on with it. I think it placed that inside the wall, so unfortunately we're going to be a little bit limited on light. I can craft, I think, a torch. Oh, I need some wood scraps to do that. Unfortunately, fresh out of wood scraps. It looks like there's a bunch of barrels up inside of here. I'll try to brighten this up in post so you can see it a little bit better. But there we go. I got my wood scraps. Pretty much everything in this game is destructible, except for like the main big walls and stuff. Oh, I'm trapped inside. Okay. Well, maybe on a lucky day, I can get this all to make me a torch. There we go. So that the viewer at home, I normally don't play with a torch. I play with a sword and shield or like an axe and shield. But you guys probably want to be able to use your eyeballs at some point during today's adventure. So there it is, eyeballs for today's adventure. The meters are going to be babysitting while I try to find my way back to Durin's Road. Oh, we're being attacked by bats, unfortunately. Many, many bats. Good lord. Okay. Don't know exactly how I want to deal with that many bats. There we go. I'll clip that one right there. What do you got going on? Got anything? Nah, I could probably just, like, leave. It doesn't seem like they're too interested in chasing me down. Let me break out my torch again, though, so that I can see a little bit. Those blue crystals, you can harvest them to get these things that make lanterns that'll dispel, like, that purple berry mist right there. That's like the mist of Sauron's farts. It's not good for you from what I can derive. If you walk in it, bad things happen, so, like, don't walk in it if you can help it. As of right now, I'm trying to find enough stone to where I can finish off this enclosure that I'm trying to live inside of, because this game is actually kind of like Subnautica. You're not really going to build like one big giant base in this game. At least I haven't been able to. This is more the kind of game I've found that like you're going to have a bunch of nomadic bases that are kind of like linked to one another through teleport stones. There's the rocks I need. I'll mine these out of here, dude. Your dwarf will occasionally sing, by the way. One thing that I think is really cool about this game. There we go. We'll drop that guy real fast. Get used to your character shouting that you're going to need a better weapon for this, even when you don't, in fact, need a better weapon for this. I don't know if it's a bug, but my character is constantly trying to tell me I need a better weapon for things that I'm fighting. And, like, occasionally it's true, but usually it's, like, not. Oh, there's an iron vein up there. Okay. I don't particularly need an iron vein. One thing that's kind of unique about this as a survival game is that you can tell the developers were big fans of Deep Rock Galactic because your character has little utilities like the ability to drop a platform like wherever you want. And then, of course, various cells and, like, I guess rooms, technically, of the game. I'm going to call them quote-unquote rooms. They are unlocked by you digging through like tiles of dirt and tiles of stone and stuff like that. And it also kind of deforms the same way. So it's good to see a developer actively pull influences from like a really, really, really good source, which is Deep Rock Galactic, quite possibly one of the great dwarf games ever made. Can I get a rock and stone? But anyways, I got 96 rocks now. Let's go ahead and see what's down this passage. Doesn't look too wild and crazy to me. Mountain potatoes, eh? You'll probably get down on some mountain potatoes. These statues right here are very important. These statues are what teach you new technologies. So you should never leave without fixing them. You should always try to fix these up. And as you can see, I'm being given the recipe right now for a first age crossbow, which is fantastic because the only ranged weapon I have at the moment is like a crappy elf bow that I found. Oh, we got Belagost boots. Never mind. You can get a whole bunch of different stuff down here. All right, just keep that in. Oh, did a stone just fall? Crazy. Stones are trying to fall on me right now. We've got ropes and fibers and things all over the place. I don't think this goes back anywhere. Looks kind of like a dead end. But it looks like we do have a loop around over on this side. And so this game carries a very, very heavy exploratory aspect. I can't express that enough. That's why I say it has something in common with Subnautica, because it's very narrative-based. And there's lots of fan service in here, too. You find, like, notes from, like, Gandalf and stuff like that. But not only is it, like, narrative-based, but this game is actually, like, really, really, really heavily exploration-based. You're going to be spending a lot of time just wandering around in old, dilapidated mines, trying to figure out where to go next. And, like, my experience with the game so far is, in fact, that the world building and the proceduralism and the world design is very, very good in this title. It is a fun world to adventure inside of from my experience so far. The downside is the combat in this game is not very good. The combat in this game is pretty lunky and clunky. It's pretty out of date. It's something that you probably would have expected to have seen out of a game circa like 2006, maybe 2007, something like Drakengard or something like Legacy of Kain. At the time, it was considered really good combat, but now, like all these years later, you know what I mean? It's just aged a little bit. And so this game definitely has kind of like, utilitarian at best, honestly, combat. I don't even know what to say about it. It's just kind of lunky, clunky combat. It's got like an internal lock system that's kind of like unpredictable. You're not exactly sure who you're targeting all the time unless you use their manual lock system. But I always find that like manual lock systems are kind of like for console players. I don't really use those. I tend to like free swing my blade around. The combat works, it's fine, but there are like quirks and there are clunkinesses to it. And because it's such a combat-heavy game where you're spending just an absurd amount of time smashing and bashing enemies, it becomes one of those things. Sorry, I gotta kill the light. I can't keep blocking with my hammer. It's breaking right now. You're not supposed to parry with one-handed weapons. You're supposed to use a shield with them and have the shield absorb the durability. And so anyways, this was a pretty big orc fight right here that we just wandered on into. They're all nice and down now. We'll break out the torch, and what we need to do... Oh, it's going to respawn if I don't destroy that pillar in the middle. Unfortunately, we have a little bit of a purple poo puddle here that's kind of like getting in the way of that. So unfortunately, we may have to re-clear this camp just due to the fact... that the mist is on top of the thing that I need to destroy. The only way I see around it, maybe, is if I can hit from on top of the cooking instrument, like the instrument that the orcs have over there. But anyways, that's kind of like a long shot. I don't know if I can get up there and, like, do that thing. Oh, they're fighting somebody over here. They're infighting. Yeah. Those little poison dudes. Good. I don't like those little poison dudes. Let them infight, dude. Let them fight. Let them take some damage. I'm going to have to break out a shield over here. We'll fight around the torch so that you guys can see. That guy right there, we kind of need to just knock him down. So you and you need to lay on the ground. Those guys with the spears, they unfortunately put poison on you. And it tends to apply, like, even... Okay, that might not be working. We may want to fall back a wee bit here and then just bury him with one big axe swing. Yeah, we'll do this from the shoulder like an actual dwarf would. Block right there. He's not falling down when I shoulder charge him. Oh, there's our poison right there. Never mind. There's just no getting around to it. I'm new to this biome, and I haven't quite figured out a way to neutralize poison yet. Like, it seems like it gets applied through your block, like, even if you block the attack that gave it. This game is full of bugs and, like, random little things that are, like, off or, like, wrong with it. And so, like, you'll learn to, like, adjust and work around them, I guess. Let's see. Actually, I've kind of got, like, a plan. I don't know if it's going to work. It's going to be very, very sketchy. But if I can get on top of that right there... Yeah. I think I might be able to destroy it from here. The purple stuff builds up like a Sauron's shadow curse on you. And so you don't want to be in it for too long. But in breaking that thing right there, we'll get an orc key. And the orc key will allow us to open that orc chest right there. And I think I can move around the miasma to get to it, maybe? It's kind of hard to say. I didn't really want to vault that. The game's got a pretty aggressive auto vault that it hits you with from time to time. Oop. Okay, I'm in shadow, but I can grab this. I know it. There we go. We found the sweet spot. We got a ranger scroll. Ranger scrolls are useful for unlocking new alchemy recipes. We got some quartz. We got some black diamonds, which is really good. Black diamonds are a very, very rare resource in this game that you're going to need a lot of. You're going to need tons of them, but you usually only get 1 or 2 from each orc camp. I'm going to head back to base, and we'll kind of, like, put together all the stuff that we have right now and figure out how much stone we have on us. I was hoping I could run into another stone vein and, like, knock together a couple hundred stone or 2, but they don't seem to be forthright. Oh, that's a happy noise. What's making that noise? They don't seem to be giving me a whole lot of stone. I know, it's weird, right? You're inside a cavern that's literally made out of stone, but when you mine the wall, you hardly get any stone. It's, like, not even worth the effort, and so, like... You're going to find yourself in some weird predicaments in this game. We appear to have found a pretty cool staircase over here. And this is the thing that I think the game does exceptionally well, like the world building and the actual, like, imagery that you're running into. Oh, there's a ruined map stone here. Well, let's go ahead and fix that real quick. I may just have, like, a base at the top of these stairs. I don't know. It might not be worth it to build that base over there. It might be a waste of time. Kind of tough to say. Oh, yeah.
The ancient drain pump.
The ancient drain pump, eh? Okay. So I'm going to guess that that's deep water. Your character, as suspected, cannot swim in this game. I was hoping it'd be just as easy as, like, walking over there, but I suppose not. We have a statue over here. We can fix it real quick. What will I learn when I fix the statue of dwarfendom? Ah, we learned how to make the first age crossbow. Very nice. Well, I was hoping there'd be a good spot to build a base over here, but I guess I'll fall back to my previous base. And we'll just use that as kind of like our forward operating center. That's what I figured I'd do with some of these supplies that I've been gathering up while we've been running around causing all kinds of mayhem in the mine. is I'll actually build up our base a little bit too. Like, you guys probably want to see what the building looks like. The building in this game, a little bit difficult to judge depth, I think, is the hardest part about it.
We got orcs!
Oh, yeah, well, you better shout about it then. We got another statue over there, too. I'll worry about that later. I don't care about the orc patrol or whatever it is that we're looking at. I wanted to show off some building. And so if you want to build stuff up, you've got to have yourself a hearth, like this guy right here. This hearth will allow you to cook up meals for your character, like this vegetable medley that I've got coming up on the fire right now. My meter is very, very low. We also need to kind of get, like, our essentials down. And so, like, if I could get something like a repair smithy. Yeah, we got, like, no iron. We have no, like, anything here, unfortunately. So I think I may have to go pick up stuff from a previous base. But, like, I kind of want to get the walls on first. I feel very passionately about being surrounded by walls. To answer the question on everybody's lips, do the crafting stations in this game craft out of your chests without you having to have stuff in your inventory? The answer would be yes, absolutely. So as long as the chests are inside the radius of your hearth, the game will just pull items from your chests while crafting. So that's a really good quality of life. The only downside there, in my opinion. Oh, well, I was trying to leave, but our camp's under attack. Well, let's go ahead and make the old axe hunger for orc flesh. Unfortunately, this is like a really bad time for this to happen. Like, I find that these raids actually tend to happen at the worst possible times every single time. So as far as environmental interactions that can happen in this game, you can be sieged and you can be hoarded. They're two different things. So a siege, the entire point is that the orcs are here to break all of our crafting branches and, like, steal from us and bust up our base and whatnot. In the case of, like, hordes, those are usually storyline things where they start coming down in dozens from the ceilings, kind of in the exact same way that they did in the films, and, like, digging up out of the ground and stuff like that. I'm willing to bet there's a lot more orcs outside of this place, too, that I'm still going to have to kill off. Usually these fights are pretty gnarly. Our health is pretty bad right now, so I think I'm probably going to die. The good news is that there isn't really that big of a death penalty in this game. It doesn't really matter altogether that much. We'll just respawn at, like, our closest bed that doesn't have enemies near it. And then we'll just kind of, like, run on back to reclaim our stuff. Now, the downside to that process is that as right now, the enemy is actually whomping our stuff super hard. So what I need to do is I need to see if I can, like, snag my gear over here, because this game does have corpse runs and gear drop on death, which I feel kind of, like, passionately about, but I know that it's a taste thing, so I usually don't harp on it too much. We've still got to fight all these guys, sans armor, which is just, like, terrible, because if there's any of the poison guys back up in here... Yeah, and there are indeed poison guys back up inside of there. Poison guys are going to become kind of like a headache. The good news is the siege is over, so as long as I can kind of, like, kite this out and, like, whomp these guys, we may be able to make it out of the back end. My general strategy in this game is just to overutilize heavy strikes, because they seem to just absolutely blaze the enemy compared to normal strikes. Blocking is, like, omnidirectional in this game. Just throw your block up and it'll probably be fine. It looks like we've got the siege more or less cleared, and so there you go. We're out of here. So this right here is one of my previous bases. I've been using this just as kind of like a holdout spot, and also a place to put my treasure, because this game lets you take coins for some reason and turn them into treasure piles. It's thematic, and, like, I'm totally okay with it. We need to grab some of these things down here for the Muznakon. I forgot about the Muznakon. So in this game, dwarves have ofrendas. If you don't know what an ofrenda is, it's like a memorial table where you leave things about somebody's life that remind... If you played Cyberpunk 27... If you played Cyberpunk, you know what an ofrenda is, all right? And so anyways, dwarves have ofrendas in this game, is my point. They have, like, these memorial tables that they leave stone carvings of their family members on to remind them of, like, people long past and whatnot. And so there's some of them in every single zone. You got to look around. There's lots of crafting tables in this game. There's lots of things to do and things to accomplish. I got to repair all my gear real fast so that I can slap it all back on my body. I've had a couple different gear sets at this point. They're all modeled very well. They all look good. The textures are nice. We've got, you know, the standard stuff here. A furnace. We've got a blacksmithing forge with all the weapons and things that I can make. We've got other things like the rune table over here, for example, that allow you to put magical enchantments on your various weapons. So if I wanted to have this guy enchanted with the red flame, I would need a bunch of rubies to do that. And so I think I actually have those. I don't know if those are garnets or rubies or what. But anyways, grab all the enchanting stuff real fast. I want to, like, enchant my gear to be awesome. And so anyways, there you go. So, I need rubies specifically for that. I don't have rubies. I do have topazes, though. And it says it gives this one a chance to generate a shockwave. So we'll go ahead and inscribe a rune on it. This one right here is Orcbane. So we can go ahead and put that on it right there. And now it's an Orcbane axe. And it's got like a magic enchantment on it. You can see the runes that have been added to it, which I think is pretty cool. Like, this game is really, really odd in the respect that, like, all of the details and all of the things that they've done inside the world building are utterly fantastic. Like, they're really, really good. The game is just marred by having really terrible combat by comparison to the quality of, like, everything else. And then from there, it's just normal, like, first release week bugginess and, like, problems that you'll have with basically any modern title because, like, nobody hires QA anymore. He said completely and totally sort of tongue-in-cheek. You will run into bugs in this game. I have run into bugs. I loaded my save just before recording this episode, and I was inside of a wall. I had to close the game and reopen it, and then it respawned me all the way back at the beginning of the game, and I had to run all the way back to my base. Thank God the game had fast travel, so I only had to run back to the first fast travel stone. But anyways, these things are gonna happen if you play this game. If you wanted to get better eyes on with sort of like the weird jankiness and whatnot that can occur, you should definitely go watch my VODs on Twitch. I know like 10 hours, 11 hours of viewing is a lot, but like simultaneously, you know what I mean? You'll see sort of the spread of things that come up and go wrong. All right, so I've got myself fed. I think I've picked up all of the useful utilities that I needed from this location. That is to say, largely iron and steel ingots, stuff like that. I don't know if I have any more of them laying around. Maybe I'll wait for like some more steel and some more bronze to craft. I don't know. Apparently I had 20 steel just inside one of my storage chests over here. I have so many storage chests at this point that I don't even know what I'm going through anymore. I have chests everywhere, all right? I have chests and things all over the place. We'll just take all these goodies back to our other base, and then we will call it a good exchange. Well, there is some good news to be had here. Our hearth is still up and running and okay. And look at that, dude. The orcs didn't touch our medley skewers. Yay. Let's go ahead and we'll start knocking out some of these walls so that you can see what the building looks like. Building, like everything else in this game, is kind of weird and wonky. Sometimes it works perfectly fine, and you'll be like, yeah, dude, this building system is so good. I'm so happy the building system is working. And then other times you'll be like, for the love of Christ, can we please just get this thing aligned? And you just can't seem to get it right. That's the way the game goes, all right? That's the way it's going to play out, and you're just going to have to deal with that. But by and large, everything works in the base crafting. Mostly. I haven't had too many problems with it. This game does incorporate a lot of ideas from Deep Rock Galactic, like I said. Apparently we're under siege yet again. Like I said, these sieges trigger way, way, way too frequently. They happen like non-stop. And so they really need to kind of like, ooh, okay, yeah, Orcbane right there. Yeah. Woof, Orcbane make them feel bad. Honestly, I'd be totally fine if there was a toggle that just let me turn off the raids, in all fairness. Because they definitely seem like one of those things that's supposed to build like camaraderie when you're playing multiplayer. This game does support 4 players on console. It supports 8 players on PC. In case you were wondering how many people can play on any given player's like server or whatever. I don't know if it's peer-to-peer or how that all functions. I don't really play multiplayer games. So, you know, not really my wheelhouse. That was a siege. Almost didn't seem like it was worth triggering. The last one was way worse. All right, so like all of our stuff is kind of messed up in here, but we want to get the basics. So one of the big basics you want is a repair smithy. Without that, we're just up shit creek. So we got to have that. And then, of course, I think we wanted to have a couple of storage chests in here, maybe. Probably not a bad idea. Just, you know, like 2 or 3 of them just to put things together. And then the other thing that I would put inside of here is a map stone, actually. I don't normally build these very often, but it's just so useful having one nearby so that I can fast travel straight from my house straight to another house and then, you know, move things around as they become necessary for the overall playthrough. If you want the raids to stop, all you have to do is have a house with a door on it, and then you won't get raided anymore. I don't know, it's one of those little things that I figured out while I was playing the game, is just, like, make sure your house has a door or whatever. There we go. Simple door slapped on in, and now we shouldn't get raided anymore. Like, that's literally the hard counter to getting raided, is just install a door on your house. I figured that out about midway through the stream. And then, like, the raids honestly are not that bad. Like, the sieges are not too bad. It's the hordes that, like, are not tuned for single player. Now, for a little bit of exploration, we need to, like, drop off some things in here. And now that I've dropped off said things, it looks like we've got a path over this way that we can go and take a look at. I don't have, like, every single one of the crafting benches made yet. I honestly kind of feel like it's probably worth it. Here, I want to see, what does the thunder thing look like? Did it work? I mean, it looks like it set off the shockwave right there. Missed him completely right there. The flying enemies in this game can be a little bit of a headache to hit too, because it doesn't angle your weapon based on where the camera is. So some, like, movesets and some items just, like, flatly can't hit flying characters. And you're just going to have to, like, kind of suss out which ones are the ones that can actually hit flying characters. But anyways, I've got, like, a long... This is not normal, but I have a long set I have a very long set of observations just about this game from playing it 12 or 13 hours. I'm going to let the footage play, and I'm just going to kind of, like, hit those in no particular order so that you can figure out whether or not you wanted to get this game or not. So with Return to Moria, I think there's, like, a lot of things to talk about here that we need to get to. Some of them are really, really sterling, and, like, others of them are super bad. And so I kind of allocated a lot of time in this video to just sort of extrapolate and talk about those things. This is one of those games that's really, really kind of hard to get it all in, because this is clearly meant to be, like, a really long, really epic game. So I'm just going to try to hit everything in one big sweep here so that you can be fully appraised as a consumer, because I bought this with my own money, and I've played it for about 12 hours now. And I think I've got some rough idea of what it does well and what it doesn't do well. Mines of Moria does exceedingly well at a couple of things, and in fact, these are the things that float the experience. As I mentioned earlier in the video, when it comes to the setting of scenes, scenery, texturing, adventuring environments, the game is really good. I liked that stuff. Exploring is fun and satisfying inside of this game. I've been through 3 or 4 biomes in the time that I've spent with the game, and every single one has had its own visual quirks and things that stand out about it. Some of them are shockingly beautiful, like the sight of a dwarf and elf cooperative effectively under the mountain where they were working on metallurgy together, while others are dank and nasty and filled with filthy orcses. And so when you're adventuring and looking around these environments, the proceduralism does, like, a really good job at mixing the pre-made set pieces with the procedural in-between stuff. I've only seen copy-pasted furniture or layouts a couple of times on my seed, and the game has a tremendous set of verticality, which must have been really, really difficult to meld with the proceduralism. Like, the game is going to put you into highly vertical environments, and when you're in those highly vertical environments, exploration becomes this fascinating Deep Rock Galactic-style vertical puzzle about placing platforms, placing ladders, creating improvised bridges to figure out where you want to go and how to get there. That system holds up really well, and it's super satisfying, except for the fact that sometimes the placement of your platforms or your ladders can be a little bit odd and can clip into the walls from time to time and make placement difficult. From there, the soundtrack, music, sound effects, those are all done really, really well. It feels like a Lord of the Rings game. Clunks and thunks, they sound good while you bash in orc skulls. Voiceovers are great. They include John Rhys Davies as Gimli, and they are performed at the top of their class. Dwarves sing, they harmonize, they buff one another in multiplayer while mining or when reconstructing major civic features, which is a really cool feature. I liked it a lot. And there seems to be no shortage of things to craft, which works well in service of the game's progression. Like, as far as survival games go, some survival games want the player to farm in the biome you're currently in order to prepare for the next one. Moria isn't really that kind of game. What Moria likes to do is they'll send you into a new zone unprepared, and the things you need to get prepared for that zone are actively in the zone that you're going into, and you're going to have to survive for a bit hard mode, defeating enemies inefficiently, until you can unlock the gear and the enchantments to make that zone easy, and then you'll move on to the next one where it'll happen again. This is kind of like a taste thing, but I kind of prefer like a mixture of the former and the latter. I like to be able to prepare a little bit before I go into a new biome, but still have things to find in the next biome that make it even easier. I find it to be less clunky when it comes to progression, but kind of like aside from that, there are loads of recipes, potions, armors, weapons, things to unlock, along with a huge amount of tables, benches, and crafting stations to master. There's also loads of collect-em-all things, like finding all of the little dwarvish ofrendas, and things like finding all the journal pages so that you can unlock new crafting recipes and benches. The game has a good sense of progression. I think it works fairly well, although it's occasionally really easy to get lost. The game's map is not so great, and so anyways, it can be very easy to get turned around or end up in really labyrinthine areas where it's difficult to figure out what the next objective is that you're trying to get to. But like, if you keep looking for unmined dirt, you'll eventually kind of get there. From here, it's on to the things that are bad. There's not a lot of things that are done moderately in this game. This is a weird title in the respect that, like, it does a lot of things really, really well, and it does a couple of things really poorly. So usually with a game, that's not the case. But anyways, the elephant in the room is the combat. It sucks. It needs a full rebuild. It has no weight. It has no depth. It has no smack to it. The archery is particularly egregiously, like, featureless. And so, like, it will be a little bit less pronounced when you're using two-handed weapons. The floatiness of the combat, but it's not going to take too long for most of your average players nowadays to feel the outdatedness of the combat systems on display. I think they probably would have been much better off getting something smoother and better implemented, something like Batman Arkham Asylum, something with a little bit more brawl to it and a little bit more freedom, less locking on, stuff like that. The problem with all this is that the game is very combat heavy. You are always doing combat in this game. So, like, while a lot of things are done really well in the title, the fact that you're constantly doing the bad combat is kind of like this throbbing, painful toe reminder that it's the odd man out. And so the combat here is decidedly lower quality than the rest of the game, and it is noticeable. It makes the rest of it feel kind of cheaper by comparison, even though it isn't. I've also run into bugs. This game, I don't think, got a lot of internal testing. In one case, I found an orc camp that was like 5 tiles completely abandoned, and I followed it all the way back to fight a boss. When I went to fight the boss, he just bugged out and stood there and just let me beat on him forever until I, like, left and closed the game down and opened it back up to see if it fixed, which it didn't. In other cases, I've loaded into my game, and I've been inside the walls. And so I've had to kind of start the game 2 or 3 times before I'm, like, actually on, like, a floor or something like that. Lots of opening and reopening the game for things like that. No crashes or, like, errors. No crashes to desktop or anything. But bugs. This game's going to need a lot of polishing and bug fixing, and it's not early access, so that's not good. The game would have done well with a lot more QA. Balancing in single player is mostly fine. There is an offline mode that you can play that does not connect to the internet. The only thing I found in single player that were badly designed is the hordes. They seem to just, like, never end. Giving the player some measure of how many orcs they need to kill or how long they have to survive before the wave is over would have been really fantastic. But as of right now, you kind of just, like, die when there's a horde or, like, run away until they stop once your, like, weapons and armor break. At least that's what happened to me. Eventually, when I got a horde, I would just run out and, like, die real fast to get it over with faster to save my time and then just go loot my stuff and get back to what I was doing. So anyways, all of these things together, a $40 game doth not make. I can't quite recommend the game at its current price point. If the combat was in alignment with the rest of the game, I'd say meh, and I could probably live with the bugs and weird jankiness that I've come across, but it isn't. A major feature of the game kind of sucks here to a moderate degree. It's functional, but it's not good. You will be forced to repeatedly bang your shins against that combat over and over and over again, which will kind of, like, tarnish and mess up the pacing of the rest of the game. So, like, my advice after playing for 12 or 13 hours is that I've had a lot of fun with the game, but what I was forced to admit is that I'm having fun with it because I get to play as a dwarf in an open-world survival sandbox, not necessarily because the game itself is well designed. It's the theming, and it's the premise of the game that kept me playing for so long, and that's why I had a blast. I think that if you can get the game for $20, that's kind of like a good entry point, in my opinion, where I could forgive a lot of the flaws. If you're anti-epic, this is actually probably really good news. You're probably in really good shape, because my advice actually at the end of this video is just to wait a year and see where the game is at after they patch it and they fiddle with it a little bit. And around that time is when the Steam build will come out anyways. This current build has some really awesome features and some things that I liked a lot. It would be a mostly enjoyable loop at a very high quality for like a $20 game. In that situation, I could forgive the combat and some of the clunkiness of supporting mechanics. But at $40, I expect AAA polish for the most part. And so those flaws kind of like stack up and erode the rest of the game, and I expected better. My name is Splattercat. I sift through the pile to find what's worthwhile in the world of indie games every single day so you don't have to. Today we were taking a look at Return to Moria. I probably said Mines of Moria about 850 times during this episode, but I got it right on the front and the back end, dude. I don't know, you say the Mines of Moria in your head for like your entire lifetime and it gets stuck in there. This is Return to Moria. I know it's outside my normal wheelhouse, but I hope you guys liked it. Let me know what you think, and I will see you all tomorrow with something hot and fresh off that old indie skillet.